Welcome to the National Association of Black Supplementary Schools. This is a video to talk about the development of the Black Supplementary Schools. My name is Imani Nassor from the Afrikan Congress Movement, and I'm joined by Mzee in Kiswahili, which means elder, Pepukai from Pepukai Book Development Distribution Services, who has been a pioneer in the black book selling business and in African organisation and activism for over 50 years, and has been key to many of the black supplementary schools or foundational schools that with providing the resources, the many books. And we're here in the Ram Art Centre, which is one of the if not the greatest, one of the greatest repositories for African books and African culture and artifacts in Europe. And I think we can definitely say that. So, Elder Pepukai, if you introduce yourself.
I'm not sure about being the pioneer, because I came into the movement early 70s, 71, 72. And when I came, people like John Rose of New Beacon in Finsbury Park, they were in the lead of the whole Saturday school movement and book distribution. In fact, the story I hear as to how the black book movement started in Britain, that John Rose used to go to different meetings with his plastic bag, and he would open up his plastic bag and pull out a book and said, "Are you interested?" And that's how the black bookshop started in this country, out of a plastic bag.
Amazing.
And I lived to see that there were several bookshops in London alone. In fact, the main two bookshops to which I have some involvement is Grassroots Storefront at 61 Goulburn Road in Ladbroke Grove. That was a BLF bookshop. And when I came into the BLF and was told about the history as to how that bookshop came into existence, I was impressed.
And the BLF was the Black Liberation Front?
Yes, Black Liberation Front. And they told me that they had a meeting and they decided that we need to have a bookshop, an African bookshop, selling African books, so people would have access. Wouldn't have to go to Double-A Smith and White Bookshop to be disappointed that what we're looking for is not there. We do it ourselves. And one of the great things about the whole philosophy and operation of BLF is that do for self, Garvey. Don't rely on others to do what you need, provide it for self. And BLF was about that. And that is one thing that impressed me. And they told me that in the meeting, they decided that they're going to have a bookshop. They had no bookshop running experience, but there was a need, and there was a prepared to be that need, to supply that need. And they said they walk around and they came across this empty shop, derelict. And they said, well, right, this gonna be a bookshop. And they find a way to get in. They didn't have keys, wasn't their building. So they find a way to get in. And they get in, they clean the place up, painted it, put up shelf. And if they had, say, 6 copies of Afro-American History by Malcolm X, they would put one there, and scatter it out, because they had very little money, but they had a great ambition, a great desire. And that is where Grassroots Storefront started. And when the owner was on holiday, white man, when he came back, as far as he's concerned, these people are squatters, and it's about calling the police to get all these squatters. And they managed to calm him down. I said, look, You left it in a derelict condition. We have improved it. He said, that has nothing to do with it. I didn't ask you to come into my premises and do anything, did I? I said, okay. But we're here, so can we negotiate? And he said, this is a wrong way of negotiating. You should have come to me, but he was on holiday. And the conversation went on. But what give a breakthrough in the conversation, they took out money out the pocket. I said, look, we got your rent. And that changed the conversation. Money was on the table. Because you don't expect squatters to be handing over money. And cut a very long story short, they managed to have an arrangement. Rent was agreed. And that is where grassroots storefront began. And when the BLF decided that they're going to set up a project that would raise money from charities and wherever they could raise it from to provide service that our community badly need, a bookshop was set up at 25 West Road here in Tottenham, and Kwasi and myself was mandated by the BLF to make that happen, and we did. And Head Start, the whole project was Operation Head Start, and the bookshop was Head Start Books. And I'm not making any false claim. Head Start Bookshop was known wide afield.
Absolutely.
Beyond Tottenham, beyond London, outside of Britain, in Europe, in Africa, in the Caribbean, in the USA, because I was one of the main workers in the bookshop. I was the buyer, and I would make several trips a year, about 4 trips a year, to the US to buy books. And our brother Tenny, who used to be a member of PACM in Nottingham, he went to live in the States to support his aged father. And I used to store books when I buy them from different suppliers in the US, because most of the books at that time came from the US. We stored them in his father's basement. And Tenny was so impressed, so many books going to England, you know. And he decided he's gonna set up a bookshop, and he did, in Flatbush, in New York. Beautiful. And when he left New York, he went to Florida, and he carried the bookshop with him to Florida.
Beautiful.
And Miguel Lawn also set up Head Start Books in Kingston, Jamaica.
So yeah, international.
Yes, so there was 3 Head Start Books, not related in ownership, because Tenny was his bookshop. Miguel Lawn, although me and him set up together, but I just left it to him. So we had 3 Head Start bookshop in the US, in the Caribbean, and here in Britain. And when the BLF decided that we have 2 bookshops, we're going to have a 3rd bookshop in Harlesden. That was Unity Bookshop. So at one time, BLF had 3 bookshops, and they were not just bookshops, because Head Start was a place of education, of conscious raising, providing various services, whether it be legal advice, whether it be visiting our brothers and sisters in prisons. In fact, the BLF set up one of the most successful black housing association in this country. Ujima Housing.
No, I didn't even know that. Ujima was with
Yes.
BLF.
And that organization was massive because at one time, I don't want to give misleading figure, but in terms of the asset, in terms of the amount of premises, it was in the millions. And sadly, that was destroyed by the Housing Corporation, because what they find unacceptable was that it was created by an African political race-first Garvey organization. That is what the BLF was, and it was black, run, and provided homes for many of our people.
Yeah, Ujima, collective work and responsibility, lived by its name. It's beautiful.
And sadly, it was destroyed because they find a convenient reason in bringing about its demise by it has to link with the Housing Corporation, and they bring in all sorts of crooks and destroy it. But during the time it was operational, it provided housing, because the BLF wasn't just about demonstration and petition and talking. It was an organization about do for self, about self-help. And it is one of the most committed to delivering services, goods and services. And it could have got a lot bigger. But of course, own folly and state attack brought about his demise. But coming back to Head Start provided education from the womb to the tomb, because we believe that education holds the key, in that we must first know who we are. We must be able to answer that definitively. We are African, and as African, this is our view about the world in which we live and the universe and beyond. Nobody should tell us or to attempt to lead us in ways that they deem fit.
Exactly. Self-determination.
Self-determination. At that time, we know very little about Kwanzaa. But those concepts are much older than Kwanzaa.
Exactly.
As a philosophy and practice as we know it today. Because our brother Malenga Karinga made it quite clear. Those ideas didn't come out of thin air or pluck it out of the sky. He looked at our tradition, he looked at our history, and to see what it is that worked for our ancestors, that we could reach and pull to bring to a current situation, to lift us out of this degradation that we find ourselves in.
Now, just to look at some of the things that you just said. So when the BLF started, the average age of the people who started that?
Well, I came in. In fact, you had people like Hannibal, you had Shea, you had Tony Suarez, you had Kwasi, who recruited them, brought me in, you had Ansu Wang, and you have a number of other people.
So they were like in their mid-20s, early 20s, teenagers?
No, man, they were more 30s and up.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Because, in fact, that's interesting, you know. There will be about Cecil's generation, and Cecil will be at least 10 years older than me.
Mm-hmm.
Hold on. No, I could be wrong, you know.
Yeah, we're talking about Cecil Gutsmore.
Yes.
The historian and black activist.
Yes, you know.
But you, when you started, you was about what age?
I came in here when I was 16 going 17. So coming out of teenage going into 20s. Yeah.
And there's that activism and that you. So you've been, you know, involved with this, you know, for, you know, with black activism and black books and
definitely
services
for over 50 years.
over 50 years.
Yes, without doubt.
And, you know, we do want to, you know, the everything you just said, you know, but is, you know, really just feeds into, you know, the black supplementary schools or black foundational schools. So, you know, Head Start and through Pepukai Book Distribution Services, which is based currently here at the Marmot Centre. And give us the address of the Marmot Centre.
Yes, we're here located in Tottenham. The address is 366A High Road, Tottenham. We're very close to Seven Sisters. We 3 bus stops away from Seven Sisters. We're literally 5 minutes away from the Bernie Grant Arts Centre, and of course the Marcus Garvey Library, in which the BLF was instrumental. Hold on, no. Tell a lie. I think the BLF, no, I think the PSCM.
PSCM.
Yes, PSCM was instrumental
in its formation.
In its formation, yes.
And, you know, and from this base here and all the, you know, the 50 odd years, you know, you've been supplying books to the black supplementary school. So, you know, you talked about, you know, how the first one started out of a bag, but, you know, give us a little bit of, you know, your recollections regarding the, you know, the Saturday schools that have been set up, black supplementary schools, and how you have, you know, been involved with, you know, supplying the resources that they needed.
Of all the things I've done over the many years, books distribution is closest to my heart. Because when you put a book into someone's hand, just by putting a book in somebody's hand and they take the time to read it, it's a life transformation. Because when I was a boy growing up in Jamaica, going to school, most of the books that were available to us in school had white images. I remember as children, our interaction with books would be we'd have the book in our hand. I would say, picture or no picture, yes picture or no picture.
Mm-hmm.
And then we'd see a white picture and say, this is me. Can you imagine?
Mm-hmm.
This is me.
Mm-hmm.
Don't look like us. So, growing up, we would not see the range of books as we see now.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, we have to think, when did we come into contact with books with positive African images?
Mm-hmm.
All around us was white images.
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, when we was at school, we would have a book published by maybe Gin and Company, Macmillan, Heinemann. These are white publishers, publishing books for children in Africa and the Caribbean who are Africans. And I remember one, this is Jumbo, the African boy. His father is Fambo, his mother is Mambo, and his sister is Simbo. And to us, we didn't think much of them. Who are them? You know. Nothing that shows us the glory, the splendor, the might and power of Africa. We were introduced to what is described as savages, and all those images was created to undermine our confidence and our sense of self. So, when New Beacon, Grassroots Storefront, those are the pioneers of black books shops in London. And in fact, as I said, I was one of the main worker.
And buyers.
And my job was the buying of books and the distribution of it. And we didn't just sit back and wait for customer to turn up at our door. We went to meetings, we went to events, we set up bookstall, and that is how books were able to spread and to reach in the hands and the minds of our people. In fact, I must talk about Kwame, because Kwame has done a fantastic job in supporting me from Head Start to Pepukai Books, because Pepukai Books is quite recent. My beginning was with the BLF, Grassroots Storefront, from Grassroots Storefront to Head Start Books. And it's the demise of BLF and Head Start. So why I started this. And Kwame lived in South London. I live up here in Tottenham. And if we agree that we're gonna set off at 8 a.m. wherever we're going in the country, whether it's with Dale Jones, whether it's Laila Africa, whether it's Obatita Shaka, whether it's Dale Jones, whether it's Barshango,
John Henry Clark.
You name it. Kwame would do the driving. And sometime when Kwame come on time, I'm not ready, I'm still selecting books, still packing, and Kwame would be upset that I'm not ready and he's ready. But by the time we drive further down the road, start to chat and crack jokes with each other, we forget about being late. But that brother was dependable, reliable, and that heart to give. And he wasn't looking for what he could get out of it. And that's what made the difference. Because too often, we too much focus on what we want, what we can grab for ourselves, and we're not looking as to what we can create that all of us can benefit, not immediately, but further down the road. And Kwame was one such person. And we talked about Kwame,
and this is Kwame Malango.
Video man.
On that Galaxy
Man, yes. That's who we're talking about.
Yes.
You know, and I have tremendous love and respect for Kwame, because both from Head Start to Pepukai Books, I did not mean for Kwame. The spread and the reach would be different. You know.
Well.
So, just to more answer the question directly, the most important thing was to ensure that our children see images of themselves in books, because their parents' generation did not have access. And today, in fact, what has impressed me after being so close to book distribution for over a long period of time is to see the amount of books that have been written and published for our children, especially by sisters.
Yeah, definitely.
Because in the old days, majority came from the US and from the Caribbean. We didn't do much for ourselves here. But the amount, when our sister Selena organized a book fair in Birmingham, I think 2 years ago, 3 years ago, and when I see the level, the volume of books for children, I was so impressed. There's one young man, he's about 13 now, he started publishing, I think, age 7 or 8, and he's got 8 books.
Look at that.
You know, in fact, let me go and grab one. Yes, I had to go and pick this up because when I came across this young man, I was so impressed.
You're going to have to read out what the name of the title is.
Yes, it's A Black Boy UK Special, and his name is Romeo Bremner. In fact, I don't have my glasses, and Brother Imani's eyes are much sharper than mine.
Yeah, so the title is Hey Black Boy UK Special, a reflection and celebration of my favourite black heroes by Romeo Bremer, age 12.
Yes.
Brilliant.
Yes.
Beautiful.
And he has got 7 books under his belt. And I know a number of us haven't even got one. You know. But this is what encouraged that the work that we've done over those many years and not in vain.
Absolutely.
It bear good fruit. Because this young man, his mother is a teacher, and she taught her son well. And
obviously,
I have a number of books by children that this mother of this young man, she's a publisher of books written only by black children. No adults, just black children. And I've got about over 20 titles by children. So, once you've sown good seed, lay a solid foundation, you yourself could be surprised
absolutely,
at the fruit of your labor. Because one thing I know for sure, I meet so many young people and they come up to me and say, "You don't remember me, do you?" And I said, "No, you gotta help me along." And they said, "You was the person who sold me my first book." And I tell you something, a lot of these young people who are big men and women now, who have children themselves, some of them even have grandchildren. They're different individuals. They're different people. They've been transformed. So a book is medicine. It's about awareness. It's about self-discovery. It's about self-location. It's about who you are.
And I think that's a perfect point to say that the reason why we're here, and I'm here interviewing Elder Pepukai, is because the National Association of Black Supplementary Schools want to award you for your over 50 years of activity in cultural education. So you are the recipient of this beautiful award from NABSS for for over 50 years for your cultural education and your dedication to the African community, not only in this country but across the world. So, Elder Pepukai, please accept this award from the National Association of Black
Thanks to the National Association of Black Sabbath School, because I didn't expect it. I saw this thing in your hand. I didn't know what it was, you know. So, appreciation.
You just show it to the camera there.
Yeah.
So, more than well deserved, and just a small show from NABSS of the dedication and love that you showed to the community, and to show their appreciation.
Well, I appreciate it, you know. In fact, I don't have my glasses, so I can't read it, but I can see the National Association of Blacks at the School emblem.
Yeah, supplementary schools. Yeah.
Logo, and I can see that. Yes. Yeah, man, I appreciate it. In fact, as you give this to me, you know, it reminds me of a story. I'll share this. In one of my travels to the U.S., I was introduced to Mrs. Sweeting. That's Earl Sweeting's wife. For those of us who don't know who Earl Sweeting is a great African painter and historian. And he had a little pamphlet book, I think it's African history, pictorial, and it shows a series of black invention. And although it was just a small little pamphlet book, but the fact that you had the images that shows that we were the birthplace of civilized living, and create the means to which a civilized people operate in the world. And to know that we're the first to bring these things into being, and to see it in picture form with the text to back it up was impressive. And I went to Mrs. Sweeting's house, and a wall was littered with awards. I've never in my life seen so much award to one person. I couldn't believe it. You couldn't see the wallpaper in her living room. But Mrs. Sweeting had fell on hard times. And I said to myself, the people who gave her the award for all the great stuff, because this woman, she's not just a wife of a great scholar, a great painter, but in her own rights, she get all these awards. But then anybody think, did she eat? And we're not very good at how we look after each other. And I gave her 500 pounds.
Right.
No, dollars. And also what I wanted to do was to negotiate the rights to the book, because at that time it was out of print. But it never go to waste, because the London Strategic Policy Unit, Ansu Wang and brother, what's his name? Adai Sebo. They were the one who bring Black History Month within the government libraries and so on structure. And they negotiate for Hansen to publish that book.
Excellent.
So, coming back to this, as I said, I really appreciate it, and I want us to go a little bit further, because this space that we're sitting in now is under threat. At the moment, it's in the hands of the receiver. And if we don't move sharp, strategically, and pay off the debt, would lose all of it.
Terrible.
And to say that would be a disaster, that word cannot illustrate, because this building in itself would worth about $1 million, and the contents, some of it is beyond monetary value. Because if I was to take you through and show some of the artifacts, the library stock, because what you see in here is a tiny, tiny, tiny fraction, and Brother Imani will use his camera to do a little shot of what's in the space that we are now. But this is not even 1% of the books that we have. And when this library come into existence, it will be one of the greatest Pan-African libraries in the world. So, Brother Mia will have the information as to how we can contribute. And let me be clear about one thing. Whatever is contributed in terms of money to save this building will be the community share in the building. Because that is where we're going. But in this crisis time, we need to make monetary contribution to prevent a disaster from escalating. Because the plan is to raise enough money, once we've rescued it, to build a more grander structure on this site, so that our children and grandchildren who are still here can have something that we've passed on to them, because we're not good at intergenerational transfer. We always have to start from scratch. So, those who recognize the little that I've done, we need your help to secure it and to take it much further for our benefit.
Thank you very much. You hold that. That's yours.
Oh, yes.
I'm not taking it away from you. So thank you very much, Elder. And this is let this be the beginning of us taking care of each other.
Yes.
And then doing better.
Oh yes.
Okay. Thanks very much.
And thanks to all the people, because I mentioned Kwame, but it's not just Kwame, because there's no way I could have done the little that I've done without the help of so many others. And for me to talk about the others, that would be a documentary in itself.
Maybe one day we need to have that.
But let's say Kwame represent all of us. And this young man beside me is one of my most appreciate, how should I put it? Most telling of my labor. Yes, because when I first met this young man, who's now a big man now, I see leadership in this young man, and he really live up to it. And not only that, he has excelled in leaps and bounds. And what he's put into this movement through the PSM is truly rewarding. So yeah, man, much love.
Asante sana.
Much love.
Asante sana, Elder. Much appreciated.
You know, and that is to say, we can't all make the same contribution. We don't have all the same skill, abilities and what have you. But we come in all size and shape. Every one of us have something to offer. Every one of us can and should contribute. Because this is about our redemption. Not for anybody else. For us as African people to lift ourselves up. And once we begin to do that, who could stand against us?
Absolutely.
Nobody. Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you, Elder, for those wise words, and thank you, National Association of Black Supplementary Schools, for these wonderful awards that you're awarding.
Yeah, man. Much respect to Brother
Nia.
Nia.
And it's Brother Nia Imara from the National Association of Black Supplementary Schools and NABSS TV, bringing to you this year the NABSS Awards 2022 for cultural education, community activism, and Kurundi Nayama, which is Swahili for giving back. This is for young people who are students or ex-pupils of a supplementary school, and they give back their time and energy to support the next generation in supplementary schools. And I'd like to thank the sponsors who are the African Spiritual Life Coaching, that's Brother Imani, Pen People down in South London by Nicholas Okwolu, African Caribbean Homeschool Network by Empress Kizzy, NABSS Design, Print and Photography by Daniel Palmer, Black History Walks by Tony Warner, LFP Kiddies Club by Carmel Brito, and Kwame Oklu, who runs the Youth Learning Network Supplementary School down in Dulwich in South London. So thank you very much for those organisations to come forward to sponsor the NABSS Awards 2022.